I was excited about CreatorCon this year from last year because I'm like, this is great. I'm going to come up with the best quadratic formula to solve some kind of quantum physics problem on the space-time continuum as everything goes. And we were actually going to find Miles Morales. Anybody know who that is? Yes, there we go. He's lost in the multiverse. So I was going to come up with an equation that we were going to figure out how to figure out where he's actually at. And as I was working on this, things are going great. I'm moving along. I just can't quite figure out what multiverse he's in. So I ended up, if you don't know the new Spider-Man, you won't have a clue what I'm talking about. But he is lost in the multiverse somewhere. So as I'm going through all this and trying to figure out what I'm actually going to do, God drops on me, well, why don't you just talk about something you know about? So I'm like, you know what? That's probably not a bad idea. What? So anyway, so tonight I figured I will talk about construction. Okay? I brought some slides too. So Rob, if you'll go up to the first slide for me. I might need to borrow your laser pointer pen. Do you have that?
I didn't bring it.
Oh, no. Okay, that's all right. That's no big deal. I'll make do without.
I'll point.
You'll point. There we go. I might just have to come up here and just maybe jump or something at some point. So it's okay. It's okay. So what God kind of dropped on me is, well, I'll get to it. I'm going to go through the slides first. I'll do some explaining, and it'll make sense, I promise. Okay. Oh, is he? Does he have one? Okay. Oh, well, perfect. Maybe I'm one of the only ones that doesn't carry a laser pointer pen. Maybe I should start. I actually thought about going to Walmart last night, but then I texted Pastor Bob, and that's okay. So anyway, so in the construction world, this is usually what we start with, okay? Looks pretty simple, right? I mean, you have an open lot. A lot of times, the company I work for, we do a lot of site work and everything as well. Did you have one? Oh, perfect. Mike's got one. Just, oh, there we go. Oh, this is great. Thank you, Mike. That's awesome. That'll work. That'll work great. So normally with the construction world, we always have a starting point. And what our starting point is usually an open lot, more times than not. And what we'll do is we will come in and we will prep the lot, because we do a lot of site work with ICCI. And a lot of times we're the first ones in. And actually this job, so you may not recognize it yet. As I get some more pictures, some people from around here might know. But this is actually the job that's Blue Town, down in East Peoria right now. So it's going to be a huge, it's basically a city block by a city block that is going to be luxury end apartments, is what it's going to be. So this is the lot. So when we first come in, what we have to do is we basically strip the sod. And once we strip all the sod, because you can't build on sod because it's an organic, is that right, organic? It is organic, so it will decompose. So you don't want to put stuff on top of it, because then once it decomposes, then you end up having a void. So the first thing we do is we come in and we strip all the sod off the lot. After we strip the sod off the lot, we have to do what is called a proof roll. So what we'll do is we will bring in a tandem. We'll load it down with gravel, dirt. We'll load it down with something. And the tandem will roll across the lot. So like this whole lot, the picture doesn't really do it justice. I mean, this is a city block by a city block. So we'll take this tandem and we'll roll across the whole thing. I mean, we'll pretty much hit every, I would say square foot. Sometimes it's more like square inch if you find a bad spot or something. But what we're doing is we're rolling across it, and the proof roll is to prove that the ground is good. So, because you don't want to start building something on bad ground. If you have bad ground, you're going to run into all sorts of problems. So once the proof roll's done, and as we're proof rolling, it's not just us that makes that call. We have geotech engineers that come out, and I mean, they watch the truck, they watch for certain things. Now, I've done it long enough, I could tell you as a truck's rolling whether it's going to pass, whether it's going to fail. It does what's called pumping. You can see the water underneath the ground actually moving and stuff. But there will actually be geotech engineers. So also on this job site for Blue Town, the geotech engineers came in earlier, and I actually think it was a separate company, but they went through and they actually drilled a whole bunch of holes all through the whole job site. They were basically checking to make sure the ground was solid and stable. Because you don't want to, like I said, you don't want to, from the very beginning, you have to have a good plan, or whatever you build is going to not make it to the end stages, or there is going to be millions of extras in costs. And a project like this, I haven't officially heard the numbers, but I'm pretty sure it's between $50 and $60 million project. So it's, I mean, you don't want to start out with having bad soil that all of a sudden you have an extra $10 million you're trying to fix, because you've just increased the project significantly. So these geotech engineers came in and they drilled a whole bunch of holes through everything. And they determined, hey, we need to actually put piers underneath the footings. So you have your normal footing is what you build on. Your foundation goes up. Well, underneath the footing, they had to actually put in a bunch of piers. Rock piers is what they call them, rock pylons. And the rock pylons they put in this, there was actually 1,200 that they put in this project. So underneath all of our footings, underneath everything, we were supposed to put rock pylons. Okay? So after we stripped the sod off the whole site, we proof rolled it, everything passed, 100%. It was all ready to go. So a different company comes in, and they are doing these rock pylons. Well, they go to drill one, and they hit something. So they abandon that hole. They go to the next one, and they hit something. They go to the next one, and they hit something else. So needless to say, the geotech that came in and did the lot was either extremely lucky and did not hit anything, or they just fabricated their documents. And I'll tell you as we go on what that ends up actually costing. So Rob, go on to the next slide for me. So this is part of what we found in this job site. So this job site that we're on is actually where the old Caterpillar, I forget what building it was, but it's down right there in East Peoria in the Levy District. Well, Caterpillar abandoned the whole building and they just filled everything in. So these were pits and bays. This was Caterpillar's foundation that we were in and we found. So this is what those geotech, or this is what those rock pylons were hitting, was all these. I mean, if you look at those walls are every bit of a foot to 18 inches thick. So that's what they were hitting as they were doing stuff. So as things progress, we pretty much, and because Caterpillar was down here, so we didn't want to dig into anything because the soil was contaminated. So the whole lot is actually contaminated. So this concrete is considered contaminated. So everything had to stay on site, on lot, or else it was all going to have to be hauled to a landfill. And the landfill was going to charge us. I mean, you're honestly talking like, I think it was going to be about, I think it was $300,000 we were going to have to haul everything off for because it was contaminated. And that was just to dump it to the landfill. And they were going to use it anyway. It was just rock and gravel and concrete. So like this little piece here is probably a good 20 by 30. And there was like one here and one right next to it and right next to it. I mean, this whole lot was just full of all these concrete rooms and these concrete vaults. And it was just, everybody claimed they didn't know about it, but I find that hard to believe because how long was Caterpillar down there for? And I honestly think the city of East Peoria did a little bit of fabricating on their paperwork and made to where this Blue Town would come in and build this great big luxury apartment. So go on to the next one, if you will, please. So these are just some pictures of the stuff that we were tearing out. So there were chunks of concrete, as you can see. I mean, it's taken both hoes to pull that up. And those aren't small hose. I mean, those are like some of the bigger hose that Caterpillar makes. And go on to the next one. All right, knock it off. And you can see all, that's right. See, I was going to start using this laser pen. That's what I needed. And you can see all the rebar that's in this. I mean, all this stuff. I mean, there's just tons and tons. When you go into building stuff like this, the amount of rebar that goes into all this stuff is just absolutely crazy. I mean, you almost have, I know we've done pours before, we've done road pours before. We've had double mats of rebar, and there's almost more rebar in it than there is actual concrete. But that's what holds it all together. So if you go on to the next one. And so here was what we ended up having. So right here, actually, those two machines are what was driving the rock piers, so the rock pylons. You can see how they have big booms and stuff. I mean, they were going down, I think 20, 30 feet is what they were forcing the rock into the ground, or that was what they were supposed to do. So we have our system here, And you can tell, so from tearing out, and it's almost kind of hard to see, but right here is what is called a crusher. And all this concrete that we've torn out, we've had to process. This first machine here has actually a thumb that would break it up into chunks that were still big chunks, but then this machine would take those chunks and throw it into the rock crusher, or into the crusher, and then it would kick out gravel, which is what this machine is on. So it is kind of hard to see, but I guess you can see back here there's a vehicle. Look at the size comparison to that vehicle, to our machines, to our piles that we have going on. I mean, this pile here is probably 30 feet, 40 feet high of just broken up concrete. This pile here is probably, I bet 50, 60 feet of gravel. So we crushed it all and turned it into gravel, and it was contaminated, but as long as we kept it on site, it could be used. Why, I don't know, because if it's contaminated, you should have to get rid of it. But they say no, if it stays on site, it's okay. All right, so that was the whole system we got. So I can tell you with this, so I'll get to where I'm going soon, but what do you think the cost of that is? I mean, we have 1, 2, 3 hose, and I think we had a fourth one, and then we had the dozer running, and we had 2 rollers as we were going. All right. I got to come up with another word. What do you want me to say?
Machine was good.
Machine. I'll stick with machine. But see, then I go 1 machine, 2 machine, 3 machine. All right, go on to the next one. So that was our crushing process. Here's another good view of it. So all the machines that we have here, here's the one with the thumb, actually, that's processing it and crushing it into smaller chunks to fit into the crusher. I think by this picture, I think the crusher is somewhere right here, if I remember right. But you got the dozer down here, and you can see how big the dozer is and how big these piles all are. So this is all what was underneath this job site that was supposed to be prepped and ready for us to go. You can see it right down here. So as we're doing this, there's a guy. It's kind of hard to see him. But down here is a guy, and he's testing the ground as we're going. So as we would dig it up, we'd have to basically reproof roll. We'd have to make sure as we're building everything back up. So we dug everything out, crushed it all, and we put it all back. Okay, go to the next slide. And so then there's the job site after we're all done with it. So, yeah, and this is what I'm saying. If you can kind of see, there's a road right here, and this is how big this place is going to be. And the East Peoria Library is like right here, I think is what that building is. Actually, it'd be more like here because they're going to have a fitness center right here. But so this is what the site turned into after we got going. We eliminated all the piles. Down here, we've actually started doing footings and walls in this area. So as we cleared, we basically cleared like the first, say, third of it. And then as we were clearing all this, we were able to come in and actually start the process. So, okay, go on to the next one, please. So here are some of the foundation walls that we put up. So again, it's kind of hard to tell, but like this wall back here is, I think I wrote it down. It's 12 to 14 feet is what this foundation wall is back here. Now that foundation wall is, just laced with a lot of rebar as well. We actually had to have iron workers tying rebar because by union rules we got to have iron workers. We normally do a lot of stuff ourselves, but the amount that went into this, we had 2 or 3 iron workers continually tying bar for us. So this wall here is 12 to 14 feet tall, and it actually sits on a footing that is 4 to 5 feet deep, and also probably about, I think, 3 or 4 feet wide. Yeah, 3 or 4 feet wide. And like I said, it just has solid rebar through the whole thing. And I'll show you what is sitting on this as we get on. I got a few more pictures of it. But this is just kind of to show you how we're getting there, what we're getting to. What? What? More than a few. All right, go on to the next one. What's that? That is the parking deck. That's what that's going to be on top of. Yep, so on to the next one, please. So this is the start of the parking deck. So this whole project is going to end up being like 4 stories high, And these walls here are, you can see how thick they are. I think they were 18 inches to 2 feet thick as they were going. Go on to the next one. And this is what that becomes. So that picture was this corner right here. In the far corner, that was where they started building. And now they've built this. Now I don't have any more recent pictures, but this of aerial view anyway. But this is the parking structure that's sitting on those foundation walls. So now you see why those foundation walls had to be so solid and strong, because there is I don't even know what the weight. I do know this crane here is bigger than a normal crane that you would use to build a house, to build set trusses. I mean, any other kind of building. They have a crane over here that was like half the size of what this is size-wise. So the weight that is on those footings and those foundations is just crazy. Okay, on to the next one. So now this is where we started the footings at in the first picture. So this is their building. So here I think they already have 4 stories. They just don't have a roof on it yet. Now since then, this is built with a roof, and I think they've started doing the inside. This is built, we've done floor and footings and everything all the way to like in this area. So they have a lot of this built up here. And the parking structure is done. We're actually going to start pouring that hopefully here in the next week or 2. On to the next one. Oh, this is actually the next floor pour we're doing Monday, actually. They just got this ready. We just got this ready Friday. So you can still even see in here, even in the building, we have more footings. Those are 2 feet deep by 3 feet wide, and rebar goes in there, and rebar crosses in there. And then we have mesh on top of everything else as well. So, next one. Oh, and this was actually taken from the top of the parking structure looking down. Parking deck looking down, so. Okay. All right, so now that was Bluetown. What? Okay. You're innocent. Okay, I have a place where I'm going. If you'll bear with me, I will get there. It's hard. It's the front row hecklers.
We ignore her well.
Do we have to separate you?
No, they're okay. So now this is, this is another job we have going on. So this is MTCO Park. This is in Germantown Hills. This is going to be, it's 4 baseball diamonds and a couple soccer fields and a whole bunch of pickleball courts. So you guys can go play pickleball over there. But again, this is how it starts out. It's a nice grass lot. This lot actually was not very level. We did a lot of dirt. I mean, I bet we had a month's worth of prep work on this just to get to a point. If you go to the next slide. So 2 of the main machines we had running were the 2 tractors and the pan scrapers. So those tractors can move a lot of dirt in a short amount of time. And if you think about both those tractors running for a month long, that's how much dirt we moved. So it was, and we also had our dozer out there running at the same time as well. Okay, next one. So the whole lot got flattened off and made to where we were ready to build. And then we ended up coming in and we were doing storm sewer. So how often do you think about what is below you when you're inside of a building or inside of or at a park or anywhere? Really, even the city, the sewer system and everything. I think I found out that the city of Peoria sewer system, how big do you think the concrete pipes are underneath the city? They're over 8 feet tall. Yeah, they're over 8 feet pipe, 8 foot of concrete pipe that carries everything around. So, sewage in Peoria is, I know their sewer is 8 feet. I don't know what their drainage is. We actually have a project now we're doing. It's a 18-year project that's trying to fix the city and the storm and the sewer water in Peoria. And we're digging, we're just digging. We're not actually putting pipe back in, but we're digging trenches and holes and filling them with rock to slow drainage down with everything. Keep it from contaminating the river, basically. So in this picture, we're digging for our storm sewer. Go on to the next one, Rob. Here's that storm sewer down here. So that pipe's a good, I'm pretty sure that pipe, if I remember right, was 3 feet is what that pipe was. And this is just for storm water carrying through this complex. So this was just to show you that, the actual grade level is here. At least that's what we made it. We could have taken 4 or 5 feet off of that to begin with, but this is where the storm sewer's at, so way below it. Okay, go on to the next one. This is what it's all become. So this was a more recent picture of it all. You have softball field, baseball, baseball, and there's a concession stand here in the middle, and all this is now concrete through here, and I think they're up to here with it all. Soccer fields are down here. Pickleball courts are going to be right here for you guys, right in that area. They're going to have 4 pickleball courts. So, and then they have future development over here and back over here. If you go on to the next one, Rob. So this is a whole lot closer to finished project. This is actually, I was here Friday, and this is a picture I took Friday of the place. And as you can tell, we have the turf field and we have grass starting to grow. So I was rigging up a irrigation system for all of this stuff to make it all work so we can water the grass because they want to play on it in the fall. Okay? So, and what they've done with that is they've hydro-seeded those so it'll grow a whole lot quicker with the grass on them. Okay, so now I've shown you all that and said all that to get to what is your foundation? What are you building on? Do you know what you're building on? Actually, Rob, I'm sorry, if you'll put that last slide up. This one's going to be a lot harder to see because it's the other way. But, so these are the tallest buildings in the world. Okay? You have, there's this one, I think this one's in LA. I might have to get closer to read this. I think this one's in LA. This one's in, I don't know, it doesn't matter. But if you look at how tall they are, this is the tallest building in LA right now. Okay? If you look underneath it, it has about 90 feet of footing, of subgrade, whatever you want, is what that tall building sits on. As they get bigger, that one's got 100 feet. This one gets bigger, 262. I was kind of surprised this one didn't have more footing. This is the tallest building in the world. I think it's over in Dubai or something. Yeah, something. It's something like that. But they only went 200 feet below ground. However, if you look at it, look at how big the footprint is for that footing. Because then the second tallest building they went like almost 300 feet below. Now there was also, I actually might have to pull this picture up to be able to read it. So the footing size of these buildings is just astronomical. The one in LA said that they did, they have the world record for the longest concrete pour because they continually poured it. Oh, come on, pull this up. They were continually pouring, longest concrete pour, it's 18 foot thick at the bottom of that thing. So that's what they have the building sitting on. There was one other one that they have piers all throughout these things. I was talking earlier about the rock pylons that we were doing in East Peoria. Well, they have 12-foot diameter piers that they have, or they're 12 foot deep by 5 feet around that they pour underneath these buildings. So to hold these buildings up, you have to have you have to have a good foundation. You can't build anything without a good foundation. What happens if you build on a beach? You'll have more problems. What's the Bible say about that? Check out Matthew 7:24 through 27. Everyone then who hears these words of mine and does them will be like a wise man who builds his house on the rock. And the rain fell and the floods came and the winds blew and beat on the house, and it did not fall because it had been founded on the rock. And everyone who hears these words of mine and does not do them will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. And the rain fell and the floods came and the winds blew and beat against the house, and it fell and great was the fall of it. So you really can't build on something that you don't have a good foundation for. If you don't start out with solid ground, your house is going to go smash, just like the foolish man's house did on the beach.
What about the 3 little pigs?
The 3 little pigs? That's another good one, you know. 2 of them huffed and they puffed and they got blown down, and the third one, the wolf couldn't blow down. Because they had a solid foundation. They had a solid building. So what is our foundation? What should we be building on? Genesis 1:1 will tell us. God created the heaven. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So who created it? God. What should our foundation be? God. I mean, there's really I think there's only two major beliefs in this world, how this world was created. It was either God or it was an amoeba that was floating on a frozen rock that somehow got close enough to the sun and it melted and it landed. And then one day it decided to grow legs and breathe and walk and talk and all that stuff is the other belief. So my question to that, who made the amoeba? Who made the first frozen rock? Who made the sun? It all comes back to God. You got to have a solid foundation. You got to believe in God. I know here I'm probably talking to, preaching to the choir, but, there's only one true God. Do we use other things as gods in our life? We can. What about money? Money's a big thing. I mean, money, you got to have money. You can't do anything without money. But at the same time, do you worship money? Do you follow money? Are you building your whole existence off of how much you have, what your bank account says? What about idols? Same thing. Sports figures. How many young kids are like, oh, I want to be like so-and-so when I grow up, which is great. There's nothing wrong with that. But are they good idols? Are they good role models? I'm sorry? What are we building our kids' thoughts on? We don't want them to build off of sports stars that aren't good people. Along with who created the earth. This was actually what I was going to speak on at CreatorCon, and I got all excited about, but I didn't do enough research on old earth versus new earth. Which one do you believe? If you don't know the difference, you should look it up. It's actually very interesting. But whether you believe the earth is billions of years old, or whether you believe the earth is thousands of years old, who made it? Still God. So there's an argument. You could argue anything with anyone, but it still comes down to God created it all. And old earth and new earth, I don't know. It's not a salvation thing. So if you think one way, I'm not going to hate you. If you think the other way, I'm not going to hate you either. That's a personal preference on stuff. But it is actually interesting. And maybe I will make that my goal for next year if I get asked back to speak again. I'll make that my goal on old earth versus new earth.
Well, you wore pants, so that's a good thing.
I did wear pants, so I will get invited back, hopefully. And I did tell Bree, I'm like, you need to get me some clothes, and I can't wear shorts. Because I'll never hear the end of it. Go with me to 2 Timothy 3:14 through 17. That's Thessalonians. But as for you, continue in what you have learned and have firmly believed, knowing from whom you learned it, and how from your childhood you have been acquainted with and sacred writings, which are able to make you wise for salvation through faith in Jesus Christ. All Scripture is breathed out by God and profitable for teaching, for reproof, for correction, and for training in righteousness, and the man of God may be complete, equipped for every good work. So again, what are you building your foundation on? Do you believe what God says? Do you believe the Bible? Do you believe the whole Bible was inspired by God, written by God through man? That's where you got to start. You got to have that solid foundation. You got to have good stuff underneath your feet. You can't be like Bluetown. We dug into Bluetown and we had, I forgot to tell you how much we had in extras in that because that geotech engineer ended up missing all the concrete somehow. We had over 1.2 million in extras in that, which was great for us, bad for the owners of Bluetown, because there's nothing they can do. They can't proceed forward without fixing the ground underneath. But again, you got to have good ground you stand on. You got to have God's word in you. You got to believe every bit of God's word. God doesn't lie. It's all truth. You got to have that sewn down in your heart and know how to explain that to people. Or you got to just live it. Live it as show it as you live it. Go to 1 Thessalonians 2:13. think this one is along the same lines. And we also thank God constantly for this, that when you received the work of God, which you heard from us, you accepted it not as the word of man, but what it really is, the word of God, which is at work in you believers. So you got to accept and believe that it's God's words. You know, I can stand up here and tell you all day long about Jesus, but you got to believe that God sent Jesus for you. Not just because I said it, but because that's what God did. Go with me to 2 Peter 1:21. For no prophecy was ever produced by the will of man, but man spoke from God as they were carried along by the Holy Spirit. So as a firm, solid foundation, you need to know that Scriptures are God revealing Himself to us. Scriptures are only truth and never wrong, and Scriptures are guide for our faith, belief, and living. It's a good foundation to start with. You got to have God at the base of anything you do. And then after God, what's next? Jesus. Go with me to Ephesians 2:20. Built on the foundation of the apostles and prophets, Jesus Christ Himself being the cornerstone. Is Jesus the cornerstone in your life? He should be. He should be the first stone you put on that foundation you built off of God. And what is that cornerstone? His death and His resurrection. It's not hard to share that with anyone. You can tell anyone it. You don't have to beat them with it, just tell them it. That's what you believe in. That's what you stand on. Go with me to John 15:1 and 2. I am the vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, He takes away. And every branch that does bear fruit, He prunes that it may bear more fruit. So if you're built off of Jesus, you're a vine in Jesus. Are you a good branch? How's your fruit? Are you being kept around? Are you being kind of poked and prodded to get growing better and produce more fruit? Or are you being cut out and thrown away and burnt off in the pile of rubble and garbage? And so then after the foundation, how do you build up? I guess we kind of have the cornerstone Jesus you build on is your first. How else can you build up? Go with me to Matthew 22, 37 and 38. Did I say that right? Matthew 22, 37 and 38. Okay. For a second there, I thought I said something different. 37, 38. And He said to him, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the great and first commandment. So, to love God is a great way to build up. You're going to build up in God's love. How are you going to build up in God's love? Spend time with Him. That's a good possibility. Worship Him. Praise Him. Pray to Him. There's all sorts of ways you can build up your love for God. As you build up your love for God, it's going to radiate through you, because then if you go on to verse 39, and the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. So with love, people are going to want to be around you. And you're going to be able to share God's love with them. How will the world meet Jesus without us? You know, you got to be building off that solid foundation. You got to build up with love. Ask God every day to show you someone new to be nice to love on. You know, it could be something as simple as at a grocery store. You know, help somebody load their groceries up. Open a door for somebody. Even if you're walking by somebody, just say hello. A complete stranger, you say hi to them, and you catch them completely off guard. You might strike up a whole conversation, you never know. How did Jesus treat the world? With love, with miracles, with healings. What are we supposed to do? Love, miracles, healings. We're supposed to be able to do more and better than what Jesus did, aren't we? That's what the Bible said. And then the other way, One of the last ways I guess I have. There's other ways to do this too, but these were just a few I came up with. Go with me to Galatians 5:22. We all know these, right? Fruit of the Spirit. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such things there is no law. So if you're going to build off of the foundation, well, first you got to have a solid foundation. You got to have good ground you're building on, and that's going to be God. Then you're going to build up off of Jesus, and then through love and through the fruit of the Spirit is how you're going to be able to share Him with the world.